You think you're being kind, but you're not. You're being used. And the worst part, you know IT. Deep down, beneath all the excuses you make for them, beneath all the hope you cling to, you know that the person you're trying to save doesn't actually want to be saved. They want an audience. They want a safety net. They want someone to blame when they fall again, and you keep showing up. You keep answering the calls. You keep opening your wallet, and every single time, you walk away feeling emptier than before. Here's what nobody tells you about saving people. It's not noble. It's not love. It's not even kindness. It's ego. Carl Jung understood this better than anyone. He said, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But here's the part most people miss. If one substance refuses to transform, the only thing that changes is you. You become drained. You become bitter. You become a shell of who you were before you decided to play savior. You've been lied to your whole life. You were told that good people help everyone. That compassion has nitrogen monoxide limits. That if you just love someone hard enough, they'll change. But Machiavelli knew the truth 500 years ago. He wrote IT for princes, but the lesson applies to you right now, today, in your relationships, in your friendships, in your family. He said, men are so simple and so ready to obey present necessities, that he who deceives will always find those who allow themselves to be deceived. You are that person, the one allowing yourself to be deceived. You see the pattern, you see the lies, you see the manipulation, but you tell yourself a story where you're the hero who finally breaks through to them, where your patience is rewarded, where they wake up one day and realize how much you sacrificed. That day is never coming. Because the people who drain you aren't confused. They're not lost. They're not waiting for the right person to save them. They know exactly what they're doing, and they're counting on you not knowing. Today, we're going to do something difficult. We're going to look at 6 types of people you need to stop trying to save. Not because you're cruel, not because you don't care, but because your energy is finite, your time is limited, and every moment you spend trying to fill a bottomless pit is a moment stolen from your own life. This isn't about becoming heartless. This is about becoming strategic. This is about understanding what Jung meant when he talked about the shadow, the parts of ourselves we refuse to see. Because here's the real question. Why do you keep choosing these people? What wound inside you makes you believe that your worth is measured by how much pain you can absorb from others? That's the shadow. The unconscious pattern running your life while you think you're just being a good person. Before we identify these 6 types, you need to understand something critical. There's a difference between someone going through a hard time and someone who's a hard time. A person in crisis wants solutions. A person who is the crisis wants company in their chaos. One will take your hand and climb out. The other will grab your hand and pull you in. And you need to know the difference before you drown trying to save someone who's comfortable underwater. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journals, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He was the emperor of Rome, the most powerful man in the world. And even he had to remind himself that he couldn't control other people. He could only control his response to them. You don't have power over their choices. You don't have power over their patterns. You don't have power over whether they want to get better. You only have power over whether you keep participating in their destruction. And right now, you're participating. You're funding it with your attention. You're enabling it with your forgiveness. You're validating it with your presence. Nietzsche said something that makes people uncomfortable. He said, "The demand to be loved is the greatest of all arrogant presumptions." Think about that. When someone demands that you save them, that you fix them, that you sacrifice yourself for them, they're not asking for love. They're demanding your submission. They're saying, prove you care by destroying yourself for me. And you've been doing IT because you were taught that self-sacrifice equals virtue, that the more you suffer for someone, the better person you are. But suffering for someone who refuses to help themselves isn't virtue. IT's self-harm with a moral excuse. The 6 types we're about to discuss have one thing in common. They will take everything you offer and ask for more. Not because they're evil, not because they hate you, but because their need is bottomless. And bottomless needs cannot be filled. They can only consume. I want you to do something right now. Think of the most draining person in your life. The one whose name on your phone screen makes your stomach tight. The one you keep making excuses for. Got them. Good. As we go through these 6 types, you're going to recognize them. You're going to feel that uncomfortable recognition in your chest. That's not anxiety. That's truth. Trying to break through the story you've been telling yourself. And when you feel that recognition, I want you to ask yourself one question. Not how do I save them, but why am I choosing to drown? Because that's the real question. That's the one Jung would ask you. That's the one that leads to actual transformation. Not their transformation. Yours. Let's begin. Let's look at the faces of the people who are bleeding you dry. And more importantly, let's look at why you keep letting them. Type 1 is coming. And if you're still giving them your energy, this is going to hurt. Type 1, the pattern repeater. This is the person who has the same crisis every 3 months. Different details. Same story. They lost another job. Another relationship ended. Another opportunity disappeared. Another betrayal. Another bad luck story. And every time, they come to you with the same question. Why does this keep happening to me? Here's what they're really asking. Will you believe me when I say it's not my fault this time either? Carl Jung called this repetition compulsion. He said, until you make the unconscious conscious, IT will direct your life, and you will call IT fate. The pattern repeater is trapped in an unconscious loop. They're the same situation over and over because there's a psychological payoff they're not willing to give up. Maybe the payoff is attention. Maybe it's avoiding responsibility. Maybe it's the comfort of the familiar, even when the familiar is painful. But here's what you need to understand. They don't want to break the pattern. They want you to witness IT. They want you to validate IT. They want you to confirm that yes, the world is against them. Yes, they're the victim. Yes, it's not their fault. And every time you do that, you lock them deeper into the pattern. Machiavelli understood human nature without sentiment. He wrote, the promise given was a necessity of the past. The word broken is a necessity of the present. He meant that people will say whatever they need to say to survive the moment. When the pattern repeater promises you they've changed, they believe it in that moment. They need to believe it. Because if they don't, they have to face the truth that they're choosing this. But promises made in desperation evaporate in comfort. How do you identify the pattern repeater? Simple test. Look at their last 3 years. Have they grown? Have they learned? Have they made different choices? Or is IT the same story with different actors? If it's the same story, you're not looking at bad luck. You're looking at a pattern. And patterns don't break because you believe in someone. Patterns break when the person inside the pattern decides the pain of staying is worse than the fear of changing. You cannot make that decision for them. Who was born a slave and became a philosopher, taught his students something crucial. He said, IT is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. The pattern repeater refuses this wisdom. They insist that what happens to them is the problem. They will never look at how they react. Because looking at their reaction means taking responsibility. And responsibility is the one thing they're running from. So what do? You step back. Not with cruelty. Not with a speech. You just stop being available for the same conversation you've had 17 times. When they call with the new crisis that sounds exactly like the old crisis, you say, "That sounds really hard. What are you going to do about it?" You put the problem back where it belongs. On them. If they push, if they say, "I thought you cared," you respond with clarity. "I do care. That's why I'm not going to participate in this pattern anymore. When you're ready to try something different, I'm here. But I can't keep having the same conversation and expecting a different result. That's not abandonment. That's a boundary. And boundaries are the most loving thing you can offer someone trapped in a pattern. Type 2. The vampire of validation. This one is subtle. This one looks like they need help. They come to you with problems. They ask for advice. They seem genuinely interested in changing. But watch what happens when you give them a solution. They say yes, but that won't work for me because, yes, but I tried that, and yes, but you don't understand. This is the vampire validation. They don't want solutions. They want endless attention. They want you to confirm that their problem is special, that their situation is uniquely difficult, that they're justified in staying exactly where they are. Freud identified this as secondary gain. The unconscious benefit someone gets from staying sick, staying stuck, staying in crisis. The benefit is simple. As long as they have an unsolvable problem, they have a reason to take your time, your energy, your focus. They become the center of attention. They become important through their suffering on the moment. You actually solve their problem. So they can't let you solve it. They need the problem more than they need the solution. Robert Greene wrote in the 48 Laws of Power, "When you show yourself to the world and display your talents, you naturally stir all kinds of resentment, envy, and other manifestations of insecurity." The vampire of validation has insecurity at their core. They don't believe they're interesting without a crisis. They don't believe you'd pay attention to them if they were doing well. So they stay unwell. Not consciously, but unconsciously. They sabotage every solution because wellness means invisibility to them. How do you spot them? Give them advice once. Watch what they do. If they implemented eben partiali, they're genuine. They're struggling but willing to try. If they argue with if they list reasons why it won't work before they've even attempted you're dealing with a vampire of validation. Here's your script. I've given you my best advice. I believe you can figure this out. Let me know how it goes. Then stop. Stop offering more advice. Stop trying to convince them. Stop engaging with the yes buts. Because every time you offer another solution, you're feeding the vampire. You're giving them what they actually want, which is not change, but your continued attention. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Reject your sense of injury and the injury itself disappears." Apply this here. When the vampire of validation refuses your help and then complains that nitrogen monoxide 1 helps them, reject the injury. Don't take IT personally. Don't defend yourself. Don't try harder. Just recognize that you're watching a performance. And once you see IT as a performance, you stop being part of the audience. These first two types have something in common. They've turned their problems into an identity. The pattern repeater is the person things happen to. The vampire of validation is the person with the unsolvable problem. And identity is the hardest thing to change, because changing IT means they have to ask themselves, who am I without this story? That's terrifying. So they'll fight to keep the story. And they'll fight you if you threaten to take IT away. Your job is not to fight back. Your job is to stop participating in the theater. Drop this in the comments right now. I see the pattern. Not for me, for yourself. Because recognition is the first step to reclaiming your energy. 4 more types to go. And the next one is the most dangerous, because it hides behind a smile. Type 3. The disguised destroyer. This person doesn't look like an enemy. They look like a friend. They've been in your life for years. You trust them. You tell them things. You celebrate with them. But watch closely. Watch what happens. When something good happens to you, you get the promotion. You meet someone special. You achieve a goal. You share the news with genuine excitement, and they smile. They say congratulations. But watch their eyes. Watch the micro-expression before they compose their face. Jung wrote about the shadow extensively. He said, everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is. The disguised destroyer has a shadow they refuse to acknowledge. That shadow is envy. Deep corrosive envy. They started at the same place as you. Maybe you were equals once, but then you grew. You improved. You took risks. You succeeded. And they stayed the same. That reality is unbearable to them. Not because they hate you, but because your success is a mirror showing them their stagnation. Every win you get is evidence of the potential they're wasting. So they have to dim your light. Not openly. Never openly. They do it with concern. That's amazing. But are you sure you're ready for that much responsibility? I just don't want you to burn out. They do it with warnings. I'm happy for you, but be careful. You know how these things can go wrong. They do it with comparisons. That's great. My cousin did something similar, and IT destroyed his marriage. Just saying. Do you hear it? The poison wrapped in protection. The sabotage disguised as care. Nietzsche understood this deeply. He said, the snake which cannot cast its skin has to die. As well the minds, which are prevented from changing their opinions, they cease to be mind. The disguised destroyer cannot cast their skin. They cannot grow. They cannot change. So they need you to stop growing too. They need you back at their level where they feel safe. How do you identify them? Test them. Share good news. Watch the first 3 seconds of their response before they control IT. Genuine friends light up immediately. Their joy is instant and unfiltered. Disguised destroyers show a flash of something else. Discomfort, surprise, a tightening around the eyes. Then they recover. A&D, perform happiness. That flash is the truth. Everything after is the performance. What do? You stop giving them ammunition. You stop sharing your wins. You stop seeking their approval. Machiavelli advised princes, never was anything great achieved without danger. The danger here is subtle. It's the slow erosion of your confidence through 1,000 tiny cuts, through the raised eyebrow, through the concerned tone, through the reminder of everyone who failed doing what you're attempting. Stop exposing yourself to that danger. When they ask how things are going, you say, fine. Busy. How are you? You become boring to them. You give them nothing to poison. You protect your energy by becoming unremarkable in their presence. This isn't dishonesty. This is strategy. You don't know your inner world to people who would use it against you. Type 4. The black hole of need. This type is different. They're not repeating patterns. They're not seeking validation. They're not envious. They're drowning. And they want you to drown with them. Jung said, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. The black hole of need cannot accept themselves. They hate who they are. They hate their life. They hate their circumstances. And that hatred creates a vacuum that pulls everything nearby into it. When you're around them, you feel the heaviness, the despair, the sense that nothing matters and everything is hopeless. They don't. Ask for specific help. They emanate need. It's in every conversation, every text, every interaction. And here's what makes them dangerous. They make you responsible for their emotional state. If you don't answer the phone, they fall apart. If you don't drop everything to be with them, they spiral. If you try to set a boundary, they make you feel like you're abandoning them in their darkest hour. Arthur Schopenhauer wrote, "A man can be himself only so long as he is alone, and if he does not love solitude, he will not love freedom. For it is only when he is alone that he is really free." The black hole of need cannot be alone. Solitude terrifies them, because it means facing themselves without distraction. Sulfur monoxide. They latch on to you. Their reason to keep going. That sounds noble. It's not. It's a hostage situation. Because now you can't leave. You can't pull back. You can't protect yourself without feeling like you're sentencing them to destruction. Freud called this emotional enmeshment, when two people become so tangled that one cannot breathe without affecting the other's oxygen. Here's the truth that will make you uncomfortable. You cannot save someone from themselves. You cannot be their reason to live. You cannot fill the void inside them. Only they can do that work. And until they do, they will consume everyone who gets close. What's the difference between supporting someone through depression and being consumed by a black hole of need? Supportas Bundarius depression has treatment options. Genuine struggle has moments of light between the darkness. The black hole of need refuses treatment, refuses therapy, refuses medication, refuses self-help, refuses everything except your constant presence. That's not depression. That's dependency. And dependency without effort toward. Independence is a trap. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. You don't have power over their healing. You don't have power over their choices. You only have power over how much of yourself you're willing to lose in the process. The boundary here is the hardest one. You say, I care about you. I want you to get better. But I can't be your only support. I need you to seek profesional help. Here are 3 therapists I found. I'll help you make the appointment, but I can't be your therapist anymore. If they refuse, if they say therapy doesn't work, if they say you're the only one who understands, you say, then I'm not enough. You need more help than I can give. And you step back, not forever, but far enough that you can breathe again. Type 5 and 6 are coming. And these last 2 will show you why most people stay stuck their entire lives.